Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming here today and welcome to the OECD global launch of the largest teacher survey in the world, TALIS, live from the Ministry of Education right here in Singapore. Great to see you here and thank you to everyone for joining us online as well. TALIS stands for the Teaching and Learning International Survey, and it is a massive survey. In 2024, it sampled more than 280,000 teachers in 17,000 schools in 55 education systems around the world. And the scale of it means that policymakers get unique insights into the state of teaching around the world, into how teachers teach in their classrooms, their working practices and their working environments. I'm going to invite our first speaker onto the stage in a few moments' time, but first a quick check to make sure all your mobile phones are turned onto silent mode. Yes? And also I want to make sure you are aware where the emergency exits are in this auditorium, and I think you all do. So I think we are ready to get things underway. To start with, I'd like to invite our first speaker to the stage to open the proceedings. Here is Singapore's Minister for Education, Desmond Lee. Over to you.
Very good morning to our distinguished guests, OECD Deputy Secretary General, Mr. Yoshiki Takeuchi, distinguished panelists and colleagues from the education community joining us, both here in Singapore and virtually from around the world. I would first like to thank the OECD for choosing Singapore as the venue for your global launch of TALIS 2024, or the Teaching and Learning International Survey. We are very happy and delighted to play a small part in supporting this important international endeavor. Now, this is an occasion not just for the unveiling of crucial research findings that can inform our educational policies and systems to become better. It is also an opportunity for us to learn from one another and to exchange valuable experiences as well as perspectives. This is because Singapore and all the participating countries share the same commitment to build and sustain a strong and vibrant teaching profession. Our teachers are the foundation of our education system. They play many roles, wear many hats, imparting knowledge, growing minds, and shaping character. And that is why the mission of the education system here in Singapore is to mold the future of the nation. Why? Because our teachers mold our people from a young age, and they in turn will determine the future of our nation. They inspire our students, regardless of starting point in life, to develop to their fullest potential and to contribute to our society. Our teachers, therefore, need our unwavering support. And we need to know how to do so effectively as our societies develop and as the world rapidly changes. Now, large-scale benchmarking studies like TALIS provide useful insights on teachers' perspectives and challenges, as well as the teaching practice. We can tap on these insights to build stronger support systems for our teachers. For example, TALIS is extremely useful as a data source for Singapore. It provides useful insights on aspects which we've done well in and what we need to do better in. And with internationally comparable data, we can all learn from the diverse perspectives and experiences in other parts of the world. Solutions that are discovered in one classroom can inspire innovation around the world. We live in extraordinary times. The world is in flux. Artificial intelligence is fast reshaping entire industries, and technology is transforming how we work, how we learn, and how we connect with one another. The question is, what does this mean for our students? What does this mean for future citizens? They need to develop important soft skills to set themselves up for success, such as inventive and adaptive thinking skills, critical thinking skills, cross-cultural literacy, collaboration, empathy, and resilience. These have always been important, but are becoming even more crucial. Our students need to deepen these key human competencies that are not so easily replaceable by AI and other technologies. But even amidst these changes in what our students must learn, teachers remain fundamental to education. Technology cannot replace the human touch and care that our teachers bring. At the same time, the tools that teachers can use and the competencies that they need to possess to train their students up are changing in tandem with the wider technological and economic shifts that we see. So our teachers have to keep upskilling in order to educate our students effectively and take advantage of new technological capabilities. All stakeholders, governments, parents and families, and society must support our teachers in this journey. Beyond providing for their continual professional development, we must value their expertise and contributions and support their well-being. Let me share some steps that we've taken here in our city-state in Singapore. The Singapore Ministry of Education works closely with our schools to support our teachers to focus on their core work of nurturing and developing our students. For example, we developed SLS, the Student Learning Space, in order to better support our teachers in effectively adopting digital tools for teaching and learning. The SLS provides our teachers with tools that they can use to augment their pedagogical practices, for instance, through facilitating greater customization to cater to individual students' learning needs. It also enables our teachers to share and collaborate with one another, for example, on lessons. Beyond the classroom, we also take care of our teachers' well-being by establishing clear boundaries around communication with parents and families to help to avoid an always-on culture. We're also streamlining administrative tasks through digital solutions. For example, we are improving PG, the Parents' Gateway, and this is our digital platform for parent-school communication to allow parents to electronically submit documents, for instance, for their child's absence from class. This seeks to reduce our teachers' workload in tracking student absences and be available for all parents by the start of 2026, next year. We are committed to ensuring that the teaching profession remains attractive and rewarding for experienced educators who are seeking growth, as well as new graduates and mid-careers. Growing and sustaining a high-quality teaching force underpins the quality education that all our students deserve and need. Many teachers around the world are already going the extra mile to transform the way they teach and reshape the way our students learn as they embrace challenges and adapt to changes. They brainstorm and develop effective lessons, tapping on technology and other tools. Let me share one example from Singapore. I'm referring to Miss Candice Lee. She's a senior art teacher from Manjusri Secondary School. Ms. Lee empowers her students to shape their own creative learning journeys using AI image generators. She then guides them to craft thoughtful prompts, generate AI-assisted artwork, engage in peer critique of each other's pieces, and help them to refine their creations through multiple iterations. So this is not just teaching them to use AI, but teaching them how to learn with AI and teaching them to learn beyond AI by interacting with one another and adding value to what technology can do so that they remain on top of technological advancements. This helps the students' critical thinking skills and creative confidence. So I hope that all of us here in the broader education fraternity, teachers, policymakers, and more, will find ways to tap the findings from this very important TALIS report to keep improving our education systems, not just at the policy level, but certainly on the ground, in the classrooms, and outside the classrooms. These very useful perspectives on both local and worldwide teaching and learning will complement our ongoing collective efforts to better understand and continuously improve our education systems. So I hope you will return to your classrooms and systems with new insights and new ideas, refreshed with perspectives from all over the world. So let's tap on these to produce tomorrow's breakthroughs that support teachers and help to forge a brighter future for all our children. Thank you, and good morning from Singapore.
Okay, thank you very much to Minister Lee there for those opening remarks, and I think everyone in this room will agree with him about the importance of the teaching profession and the importance of supporting teachers. We're going to move on now. I'd like to invite our next speaker to the stage, OECD Deputy Secretary General Yoshiki Takeuchi.
Good morning, Minister Lee, distinguished colleagues, and above all, dear educators and around the world. It is a great pleasure to welcome you to the international launch of the 2024 edition of the OECD Teaching and Learning International Survey. TALIS is a flagship initiative that supports countries in strengthening their education systems through robust, internationally comparable evidence on teaching and learning. With over 50 countries and participating education systems, it is the largest international survey of its kind, highlighting our shared commitment to cooperation and evidence-based policy for a more effective and more equitable education. At the heart of the TALIS are the voices of more than 8 million teachers and school leaders across the globe. Their perspectives reflect diverse cultures and educational environments, offering invaluable insights into the realities of teaching today. These findings not only celebrate the dedication and the professionalism of teachers, but also highlight areas where education systems and policymakers can act to make teaching an even stronger and more fulfilling profession for the future. Let me begin with the first lessons we draw from the TALIS 2024. Good news, teachers are passionate and remain deeply committed to their work. TALIS confirms what many of us already know, that teaching is more than a profession. For many, it is a mission. The survey findings confirms this. 95% of teachers say it is important to make a worthwhile social contribution. Nearly 70% report that teaching was their first career choice, and almost 90% are satisfied with their job. This commitment is a tremendous strength for education system. But TALIS also points to areas where policies can further help in nurturing and sustaining teacher passion and commitment. Such areas include reducing administrative tasks to teachers so that they can focus on teaching and learning, ensuring strong mentoring for new teachers, and providing opportunities for continuous professional growth. These are policy levers that can help education authorities turn teacher passion into greater impact for students and society. A second lesson from TALIS is the resilience of the teaching profession. When COVID-19 closed schools overnight, learning did not stop. Teachers rapidly adopted digital platforms, redesigned lessons, and kept students connected. Their efforts ensured education continued in both virtual and physical classrooms. These experiences continue to shape classrooms today. Teachers are blending digital and in-person methods, making greater use of technology, showing their ability to adapt and shape the future of education. At the same time, another transformation is underway. As you know, the rise of artificial intelligence in education. From tutoring systems to generative AI, technology holds promise of supporting teaching and learning. But, as the Minister said, it cannot replace the human role. Real progress requires teachers who are skilled in both pedagogy and technology. On average, 1/3 of teachers report using AI tools, but adoption across countries varies significantly. From less than 20% in countries such as France and Japan to more than 70% in the UAE and here in Singapore. This highlights teachers' openness to innovation and their willingness to explore new ways of supporting their students. But these large differences also underscore the needs for education system to provide targeted support and training that would allow teachers to adopt these tools effectively and responsibly. A third lesson that we have learned from this TALIS 24 is that passion and adaptability alone are not sustainable without strong support and recognition. One important source of support is collaboration. TALIS shows that collaboration is a key resource for teachers. Between the 2018 and 2024 cycles, teachers reported spending almost 15% more time on teamwork. We see this trend reflected in diverse practices around the world. Some examples. In Brazil, teachers spend around 5 hours per week working in teams. In Vietnam, almost 70% of teachers teach jointly in the same class. In Shanghai, teachers are organized into subjects and grade-level learning communities that meet regularly to discuss student progress and co-develop materials. And where collaboration is strong, teachers report greater confidence and greater satisfaction. This points to an opportunity for education system to create more time and structures for teachers to work together and learn from each other. So collaboration is important, but collaboration alone is still not enough. Many teachers continue to face competing demands from lessons preparation and grading to curriculum reforms and growing expectations from parents and society. TALIS data show that the time teachers spend on general administrative work has also increased by 7%, and this is now the most frequently cited source of workload-related stress. Reducing these burdens is essential if teachers are to focus on what matters most, their students. Support is also especially important at the start of a teaching career. The latest TALIS results shows progress. 26% of beginning teachers now have an assigned mentor, up from 20% in 2018. While mentoring has expanded significantly, access continues to vary across countries, highlighting the need for more consistent teacher induction policies. For example, around 11% of novice teachers in Chile received a mentor, compared to almost 80% here in Singapore and Shanghai. Providing structural induction and mentoring is one of the most effective ways to help talented young educators to thrive and remain in the profession. Finally, support must go hand in hand with recognition. A growing share of teachers now report that they feel their profession is valued, which is up 18% from 2018 to 2024. And this momentum must continue. Recognition should be matched with and can be driven by attractive working conditions and clear career opportunities so that teaching remains a profession that attracts young people and retains experienced educators. Singapore sets a global example in this area by offering teachers several different career pathways where they can build expertise and feel fulfilled. As we look across these findings, let me conclude by highlighting the key lessons from TALIS 2024. First, teachers remain deeply committed to their students. They are resilient and adaptable, whether facing the disruption of pandemic or the challenges and opportunities of digital transformation and AI. Second, sustaining this commitment requires the right conditions. That means reducing unnecessary burdens, fostering more collaboration, and ensuring stronger recognition of the profession. Third, TALIS provides the evidence and platform to guide these efforts by creating opportunities for dialogue and mutual learning among education systems worldwide. This collective effort is at the heart of OECD's mission to help governments to work together to design better policies for better lives. So let us build on these insights. Let us strengthen education systems. And above all, let us honor those who shape the future every day in classrooms across the world. Because when teachers thrive, our children and our societies thrive too. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for those remarks, for Deputy Secretary General of the OECD there. Okay, we're going to get into a bit more detail. So you heard about the results there, but we're going to get some more details now from probably the person who knows more about these results than anyone else. He is the Senior Project Manager for TALIS, and he spent the last few years really working on these results. So he knows more about them than anyone else in the world. So he's a good person to get into the detail. Please welcome Ru Chen.
Thank you, Duncan. And thank you, DSU Takeuchi. Thank you, Minister Lee, for your welcoming remarks. And thank you to the Singaporean Ministry of Education for being such gracious hosts and allowing us to launch TALIS here in Singapore. To everyone in the room, good morning. Oh, come on, this is the Singapore Ministry of Education. We can do better than this. Good morning. That's better. My name is Ru Chen, and like Duncan said, I work with TALIS at the OECD. And as I just demonstrated, I used to be a teacher. Like I suspect many people in the room were. Before I talk about TALIS, I'd like to talk about my time briefly as a teacher. And to begin, I'd like to show you where I was a teacher. I taught in a small Pacific Islands country called the Republic of the Marshall Islands. And if there are geography teachers here, they will tell you that island is not really an appropriate word for this. This is a coral atoll. They are thin rings of land that surround a central lagoon. And when I say thin, I mean very thin. So this is my school, and from end to end, it is about 150 meters across. That's not a typo. This is meters, not kilometers. To give you a sense of scale, this is the Singaporean Ministry of Education. You thought your island was small. This picture was taken in 2008. That's when I last taught. And unfortunately, my school is no longer 150 meters across. This was my school building, and this was my classroom. The reason I am sharing this with you is because teaching is one of the most common professions around the world. You can go to the farthest, most remote corner of the world, and there you will find teachers. It is also one of the most well-known professions. Almost everyone has had several teachers in their lives. Many have teachers in their family. Everyone has an opinion about teachers and teaching. And yet, despite teachers being everywhere and everyone knowing teachers, teaching can also be a rather lonely activity. When I was a teacher, I felt quite isolated. But it didn't have anything to do with where I was. What made me feel isolated was when I closed the door to my classroom, I turned around and there were 25 students staring at just me waiting to be taught. That's what really made me feel like I was on an island. And during those moments, I found myself asking, what are other teachers doing? The person in the classroom next to me, the teacher in the school down the road, maybe even teachers in other countries. If I could talk to them right now, what would they tell me? Do they share my experiences? Do they share my struggles? What would they have to teach me? Let's talk about TALIS. TALIS is the Teaching and Learning International Survey. As you've heard, it's the world's largest survey of schools and principals. We started in 2008, and last year we sampled 280,000 teachers in 55 education systems. This is our way of making teachers heard, so they can tell each other what is happening and tell all of us what they need. And I'd like to share with you the results that they have told us. This is the voice of teachers. And we'll start with, who are the teachers? Around the world, we see that teachers are getting older. The average age of teachers across OECD countries is now 45 years old. In some countries, you see here on the left, it is now over 50 years old. I'm highlighting these three, Portugal, Latvia, and Italy, because we'll talk a little bit more about them later on. When we talk about aging teachers, we will very quickly start talking about teacher shortages. We've seen a lot of data that there is a global need for teachers. We simply don't have enough. And when we look at TALIS data, we see a similar but perhaps complicated picture. There are absolutely countries that have teacher shortages, and these have increased since 2018. There are also countries that have decreased in the number of teachers that they need. Because shortages are not necessarily a global matter or even a national matter. It's a local matter. When we say teacher shortage, we mean teachers who teach certain subjects in certain areas at certain levels of education. One school might have a shortage and the next school might not. And to illustrate some of this complexity, take a look at these two countries, Portugal and Latvia. Remember from the first slide, these two countries had some of the oldest teachers in the world, and yet they're going in very different directions in terms of teacher shortages. Latvia is increasing in how many teachers they need. Portugal is actually decreasing. It's just context. So regardless of whether or not countries have a shortage or they don't have a shortage, all countries want to maintain a sustainable supply of qualified teachers. This is a goal. So what are countries doing to help achieve this goal? Some are looking to other fields to hire teachers. We call these teachers second career teachers. They worked in another field for 10 years before they became teachers. On average, it's only about 8% of teachers are second career teachers. But you see over here in places like Iceland, New Zealand, Australia, Netherlands, well over 15 and even 20% of teachers are recruited from other fields. Something else that countries are doing is they're hiring teachers part-time. Globally, about 20% of teachers work part-time. But in places like the Netherlands and Brazil, being a part-time teacher is just being a normal teacher. Most teachers work part-time. So we're talking about sustaining a qualified supply of teachers, and that means we need to pay attention to novice teachers. These are teachers that TALIS defines as having been in the profession for 5 years or less. If they are thriving, if they wish to sustain and maintain and stay in the profession, then we have a healthy supply of teachers. But of course, novice teachers have certain needs that not everyone else does. Around the world, about 18% of teachers fall into this category. Some fewer, some a lot more. And we ask them, what do you need? What are your challenges? And something that they repeatedly tell us is that novice teachers struggle more with classroom management. We ask, how stressful is maintaining classroom discipline for you? And around the world, novice teachers find this to be a much more stressful activity than experienced teachers do. Gray dot, novice teachers, black line, experienced teachers. Blue bar means that novice teachers are more stressed by classroom management and classroom discipline than experienced teachers. So, what are governments doing to help support novice teachers? As the DSG mentioned, one important policy lever is mentorship. And we do see that around the world, mentorship for novice teachers is increasing. This is the share of novice teachers who say they have a mentor compared to 2018. In only a few countries is it decreasing. That's a good sign. But of course, if you want mentorship, you need time. You need time for someone to mentor you. You need time to learn from that person. So something else that many countries are doing is they are reducing novice teachers' working hours. Because if you are teaching, you can't have a mentor. And we see that around the world, in most countries, novice teachers teach fewer hours than their experienced colleagues. So they can receive mentorship, so they can have more professional learning. And also, there's an outcomes question here. Novice teachers are generally less experienced. They haven't had time to accumulate expertise. You might not want them to have the highest teaching loads in your country. You probably want experienced teachers to carry that load. But you do see there are a couple of blue bars which represent countries where novice teachers actually teach more hours than experienced teachers. And that could be problematic on a few levels. So this is what novice teachers are doing in the classroom. But let's also talk about where their classrooms are. What type of schools do novice teachers teach in? TALIS asks teachers to tell us about the composition of your classroom. What sorts of students are you teaching? And we see that, in general, novice teachers actually teach in schools and classrooms with more challenging environments. This chart shows you the share of teachers that teach classes where a high percentage of the students have difficulties understanding the language of instruction. It's a more difficult environment to teach in, for sure. And novice teachers tend to teach in these classes more than experienced teachers. So this is probably a reflection of teacher allocation policies. How do countries decide where teachers teach? Often, we see that seniority is an important criteria. Those teachers with more experience, they get the first pick of where they want to teach. And usually, they pick well-resourced environments that are maybe a little bit less demanding, and then the ones left over go to the novice teachers. And that's something that we see here. So overall, we ask the question, do novice teachers want to keep teaching? And in some cases, we see some astonishing results. In places like Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, sometimes over 50% of novice teachers say they wish to leave the profession within 5 years. And if you remember the very first slide about the age of teachers, these countries have some of the oldest teachers in the world. So they are simultaneously aging and their novice teachers want to leave. That spells some trouble in the next 5 to 10 years. But those circumstances are not inevitable. Remember this country, Italy. They also had very old teachers, yet their novice teachers wish to stay in the profession. It goes to show that policies do matter. Circumstances can look the same, but the decisions that education systems and governments make can have a difference in the behavior of teachers. So those were the teachers. Let's talk about their teaching. What are they doing? And the biggest factor of what they are doing is, who are their students? Who are they teaching? No surprise, student diversity is increasing. More students are refugees. More students are diagnosed with special education needs. More students are non-native speakers of the language of instruction. More students are immigrants. And when you take a look at this at the country level, for example, special education needs, you see almost a unanimous increase. In almost every single country that participates in TALIS, teachers report teaching more students with special education needs. That places some demands on schools and teachers. Similarly, here are refugees. And certainly in Eastern European countries that border Ukraine, we see an explosion of refugee students entering schools. Take a look at the Czech Republic. In 2018, 4% of teachers in the Czech Republic taught in a school that had at least one refugee. In 2024, it was 75%. Think about the demands that places on the teachers in those schools and those schools' resources to support that kind of change so quickly. And given all of this change, we start asking, teachers, do you feel prepared to teach these students? And they say, well, I'm pretty comfortable doing this. The content of the subjects I teach, the pedagogy. I'm a little less comfortable doing this. Supporting students' social emotional development and teaching in multicultural and multilingual settings. And when you see the data about the changes in student composition, you begin to understand why this might be the case. But of course, some teachers are still more prepared than others. We ask teachers, do you care about your students' social and emotional needs? And we disaggregated the results by the gender of the teacher. In every single country, female teachers care more about the social and emotional needs of their students than male teachers. My wife heard me rehearsing this slide, and she interrupted me, and she said, "It took you 6 years and 280,000 teachers to conclude that men are bad with emotions. You don't need a chart. You can just show them some of the text messages you sent me this morning, and that would be enough." Maybe nothing has changed as much the past couple of years as technology. The technology that teachers are using, the technology that students are using. But maybe even before we talk about what they're using, technology is impacting where education occurs. As the DSG said, during the pandemic, much of formal schooling moved online. And there were questions about, would it stay that way, or would we go back to what we were used to 10 years ago? Our data show that in some sense, it has stayed. Almost 20% of teachers are in schools where at least one lesson was taught online or hybrid in the past month. Singapore, on the far right and far left, is a big outlier. That's home-based learning. So no other country has that, and I think that could be an interesting practice to share to a lot of other countries around the world. But, of course, teachers, like the rest of us, they're worried about what all of this technology means. Over 60% think that frequently using technology is affecting students' well-being. If we're talking about technology and well-being, we need to talk about artificial intelligence. And I didn't know how to do it, so I asked artificial intelligence to talk about itself. Like me, teachers are also concerned about using artificial intelligence. Not just because it might amplify biases, but they're worried that it might lead to inappropriate recommendations, and they're even more worried that it enables students to misrepresent their work, to cheat. At the same time, teachers also recognize the potential of artificial intelligence to write lesson plans, adapt learning, and automate administrative tasks, something we already heard from Minister Lee. Teachers are already using artificial intelligence. As the DSG said, almost 40% of teachers around the world are already using artificial intelligence. And this was from last year. If you ask teachers right now, I'm betting it would be a lot higher than this. And leading the way, as the DSG said, we have the United Arab Emirates and we have Singapore in terms of the teachers who have embraced AI the most. We also asked teachers, have you received professional learning in how to use artificial intelligence? And the results look rather similar. About 40% have, and again, leading the way, Singapore and the United Arab Emirates. Not just in terms of using artificial intelligence, but providing professional learning and how to use artificial intelligence. If you put these two graphs together, what you see is this. You have a very strong correlation in terms of countries where teachers have received training in artificial intelligence and countries where teachers use artificial intelligence. More of one leads to more of the other. And this is a very encouraging sign. It suggests that education systems are trying to regulate and provide guidelines on how to use artificial intelligence. The worst thing would be unregulated chaos. So we won't give you any guidelines, but you can use whatever you want. And that's what we don't see. So we see some positive developments. I want to talk about cooperation because I felt quite isolated when I was a teacher. And I want to know, do other teachers feel the same way? And as the DSG said, actually, less and less. In every single system, almost, teachers are cooperating more in terms of how many hours per week they spend on teamwork and other cooperative activities. In no education system did this go down. How they cooperate is interesting. First, we have kind of more formal professional collaboration. Requires a little bit of coordination. Teaching in the same class or participating in professional learning together, and we see the distribution here. But of course, teachers don't always need coordination to collaborate. They can do it on their own, and they do. They share materials with each other. They talk about their students' needs. And one thing that we found interesting here, less than 8% of teachers regularly observe each other's classes, which is something that I think could be really leveraged when you think about how teachers work together. Because teachers like working together. We took a look at how satisfied teachers are with their jobs and how much they collaborate, and we see that where teachers collaborate more, they're more satisfied with their jobs. So if we start talking about well-being of teachers, retaining teachers, this could be an interesting place to start. And I want to conclude with talking about how teachers are doing. Are they thriving, or are they merely surviving? Stress is increasing. Since 2018, most education systems have increased in terms of the share of teachers who say that they are really stressed. A couple have decreased. And we then asked them, what is stressing you out the most? What is the biggest, strongest source of stress? And similar to previous administrations of TALIS, the strongest source of stress is administrative work. The lowest source of stress is teaching. Teachers like teaching. They don't like filling out papers. And that's interesting, because if we ask ourselves, where is the one area out of these four where artificial intelligence could realistically automate the most right now? It's probably that one. Similar to this automatic attendance taking that I just heard from Minister Lee, there could be real potential there in solving teachers' biggest source of stress. But of course, a big part of any professional's well-being, their job satisfaction, same for teachers, is their salary. And we ask teachers, are you satisfied with your salary? In most countries, it is increasing. Teachers are becoming increasingly satisfied with their salaries. In a few, it is decreasing, including in Singapore. Yes, salary matters, but it's not everything. There are so many different factors that contribute to teachers' satisfaction, and we ask teachers about them all. Are they part-time or full-time? Is their contract fixed? Is it indefinite? What are the hours that they work? Vacation days. And we see that in terms of predicting whether or not they stay in the profession, it's those other things that more often, more strongly predict whether or not teachers stay in the profession than their salary. Everything matters. Everything. And I want to end on a positive note. As the DSG said, for teachers, their job isn't just a vocation. Oftentimes, it's a passion. It's a mission. And we simply ask teachers, are you satisfied with your job? Very simple question, straightforward. All in all, are you satisfied? And they are. About 90% of teachers worldwide are satisfied with their jobs, and the lowest country is 79%. Teachers like where they are. They like what they're doing. I think this is a testament not only to teachers' motivation and their capacity to adapt, but also how governments have been able to provide timely and relevant support to teachers to help them teach. And I want to end with my favorite slide from the report, my favorite page from the report. Behind these charts and the report and the figures and the data is a wonderful team at the OECD. And behind that wonderful team are wonderful teachers. So each person in the TALIS team wrote in the report and acknowledged one teacher that made a difference in their lives. For me, thank you, Mr. Francis from Idaho Falls High School in the United States. And thank you to all of you for coming and for listening. If you wish to learn more about TALIS, this QR code will lead you to our website. I look forward to the discussion.
Thank you so much for that presentation. Ro Chen, the OECD's project manager for TALIS. I think you can all agree that was a fascinating and fantastic presentation. Another round of applause for Ro Chen, please. Okay, we're going to have a panel discussion now, and I know they're going to set up the furniture and the chairs here while I'm talking. So I just want to reflect on some of the findings there which were raised. I mean, 90% of teachers around the world on average are satisfied with their job. So, I mean, I think that is something to celebrate, that teachers are happy in the profession. If you want to learn more about all the results which Ro Chen was just talking about, then go to the OECD website, oecd.org. You're going to see the full report there. There is also a brochure called Insights and Interpretations, which goes into some of the key findings in a little bit more detail. Also, you can check out our blog site. It's for OECD Education and Skills blog site. Check out our podcast, OECD Education's Top Class Podcast. We're going to have loads of information about TALIS on that as well. And you can follow us on our social media feeds as well. We're going to be pumping out information about the findings from TALIS in the days, weeks, and months to come. So do follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, X, and all our other platforms as well. Right. Was that enough filling? I think it was. As you can see, we're getting ready for our panelists. You will be able to ask questions, so please, if you have any questions from Ro Chen's presentation, then please do ask questions. If you're joining online, then you can also use the chat function on Zoom to ask questions as well. Please do so. Right, let's get the panel underway. Let's bring back to the stage Ro Chen, the OECD's project manager for the TALIS report. Also on the panel, Professor Yunifer Rashidi, chairperson of the Indonesian Teachers Association and a lecturer at Jakarta State University. Also joining the panel today, we have the economist Rick Hanyushek. He's the Paul and Jean Hanna Senior Fellow at the Hoover Institution at Stanford University in the United States. Also joining us, Louis Lee, Singapore's Director General of Education. And last but not least, Su Hung Wong, the advisor to the Ministry of Education here in Singapore. And he's also chair of the TALIS Governing Board. And he is going to moderate the discussion. So I'm going to hand the reins over to him. Over to you.
Thank you, Duncan. Good morning to everyone, both here physically in the auditorium in the Ministry of Education Singapore, as well as those who are dialed online. You have heard our minister's address. You have heard DSG's address too, and of course, Ro Chen has given us a lot of food for thought with a lot of details of some of the very interesting results coming out from the TALIS survey. So on that note, let's kick off our conversation here, a conversation amongst the panelists as well as with all of you as we strive within the next hour or so to deepen our conversation about TALIS data in particular, but about teachers and teaching in general. So without further ado, to kick off this conversation, let me invite the panelists, starting with Rick and then after that Yunifer and Wei, to share their first line, high-level reflections on the address that they've heard and on the presentation that Ro Chen has done. Each one of them will have got 2 minutes to share with us their very, very powerful thoughts that have come to their minds as they heard the presentation. So, Rick, can I invite you to start off the conversation?
Thank you. As an economist, I will give you the economic view of this report. It starts with what everybody in the room, I believe, believes, and that is that teachers are the most fundamental and valuable part of schools. The economist's take on this would be to talk about what is the value that is produced by teachers. And this is in the United States, at least. We see that the most effective teachers add over $1 million in future incomes to their students each year compared to the average. The average teacher, in fact, contributes a lot, but the most effective teachers contribute an overwhelming amount, and this dwarfs the salaries that we pay those most effective teachers. The second thing then I would talk about is what Ro Chen started talking about, and that is shortages and the supply of potential teachers. What we know from that is that the skills that add to an effective teacher, that make teachers most effective, are exactly the same skills that are demanded in the rest of the economy. So that the rest of the economy is, in fact, competing for exactly the same people as the teaching in schools demand. So that somehow we have to compete with other industries to get the effective teachers that add so much to their students' future lifetime earnings. Now, one of the interesting parts of the TALIS report, it talked about salaries, and except in Singapore, where their demands are huge elsewhere, what you find that Singapore is a great example. Singapore rewards skills of workers more than any other country in the world. What that means is that the competition to get those teachers is most intense in Singapore compared to other countries of the world. And so the fact that Singapore has been quite successful in that competition, as you see by the performance of its students, I think deserves its own applause. I presume that's what a number of you in the audience are contributing. Along with that, I wanted to point out some of the things mentioned by Ro Chen in his talk, and that is that it's not just salaries that attract teachers to the classroom, it's a combination of working conditions. People who want to go to their job make up, even if their salary isn't quite as competitive, they get a lot of satisfaction out of that. And so what the TALIS report does is provide you with a comparative picture around the world of how working conditions vary along with salaries. And so I think that that's something that people want to look at in the TALIS report. The final thing I would say is everybody in any conversation today has to use the words artificial intelligence. That has to be included in any talk. Well, one of the things that artificial intelligence is going to do, I believe, as an economist, is artificial intelligence will make the most skilled workers more productive, more valuable. It will substitute for the least productive workers, the least skilled workers. And so what artificial intelligence is going to do is to push the demand for effective teaching. It is going to make the schools much more important than the amounts of money that I talked about before. And so the whole picture is one that competition for teachers is going to increase. We need those good teachers, and the countries that succeed are the ones that solve that puzzle.
Right, thank you, Rick. Some very, very profound thoughts for us to chew on. Umi?
Thank you very much. Good morning, all. Good morning, Minister. I'm here today for the invitation of OECD TALIS. So I will speak for not based on the my country, but based on my perspective of the chairman of the chairperson of the Teacher Association of the Republic of Indonesia. So this is, first of all, I would like to deliver my gratitude and also appreciation to the OECD that consistently organizing the Teaching and Learning International Survey. This survey provides valuable insight into the teaching and profession across the countries. We also appreciate the discussion forum as its overall important space to address the challenges faces the teaching profession more deeply. Yet, we firmly believe that investing in teachers, investing in the futures, of course. What we need to, teachers who are qualified, well supported, professional, enjoy good well-being and relevant to the needs of our time. This is our shared aspiration that the teaching profession will continue to be respected, cherished, and attract the younger generation for the future of our nation and the world. And before I continue my perspective about the TALIS survey, I would like to also extend my congratulations. Wow, sorry. To the Minister of Education Singapore, to the Minister of Education Singapore, as well as to my colleague from the Singapore Teachers Union here, Mike, and also the President of STU. Our partner in teaching profession, the result TALIS demonstrate once again that Singapore, widely recognized for its excellent in education, not only within an ASEAN and also in globally. While some countries, as reflected in TALIS findings, perceive artificial intelligence as a potential threat to the role of teachers, most of the teachers in Singapore, as a TALIS result, are already accustomed to integrating artificial intelligence into their teaching practice, in their interaction with the students, in assessing learning progress, and exploring knowledge together with the student. This clearly illustrated that technological information, innovation, and creativity have become shared value among the government, teachers, and broader community. It reflects a deep and serious and consistent national commitment of education, including the advancement of science technology, which has driven Singapore remarkable progress. And the last but not least, it is about the TALIS report. For us, especially I am the executive board of the Education International. It is an important issue related to teaching and learning, such as a teacher shortage, well-being, workload, job satisfaction, and status of the profession, which government should address as a matter of urgency to make teaching an attractive profession so that every child in every classroom is taught, be trained, qualified, and motivated teacher. I think that's all.
Right. Thank you, Uni. And Uni here representing the voice of 3.3 million teachers in Indonesia. And over to Wei, our Director General from Singapore.
Morning, everyone. I'm going to speak from the view of governments as well as educational leader. We have our own internal surveys in Singapore in the Ministry of Education, but we've still found it useful to look at an instrument like TALIS. Because I think teaching has some unique features of the profession. and for governments to improve our ability to recruit and to retain teachers, to have a quality teaching force, we actually need data. And this data is to understand where we can have that improvement and what are the good features that we need to retain in our system. As for many professions, actually expertise is something that is very critical. But for education, and maybe in some other professions, it is not based on the number of years in service. It's not based on the number of years in service, but it is based on how reflective you are to be able to look at your effectiveness and incorporate the new pedagogies or new practices and new systems that can improve your effectiveness from year to year. So that takes looking at yourself hard, but not just looking at yourself, but looking at others in the profession, being able to grow with a fraternity. The best way to improve the quality of a teaching force is when the fraternity itself bootstraps one another upwards. And that's how we can do that, by looking at TALIS, looking at some of the areas that others have found in order to improve their systems, processes, perhaps the way in which they organize themselves, so that there's time and space given for teachers to do this. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much for those initial remarks. As you sit there, whether in this auditorium or at home, I'm quite sure you have some initial reactions as well. Can I invite you, those at home, to maybe start penning down your comments via the chat on Zoom function, the chat function on Zoom. And for those who are seated in this auditorium, let's do a very, very quick think, pair, share. Turn to your neighbor next to you within a minute or two. Just share some of your initial reaction as you have heard all the comments from the various speakers, including the panels who have shared theirs. So over to all of you in about a minute or two. Right, your 2 minutes up. Those who are online, keep your comments coming in. The managers of our Zoom platform are continuing to monitor your comments and flashing them up here whenever they are relevant. For those who are in the auditorium with us, would anybody like to come forward and share your reaction to what's been shared? Very quickly, anybody?
Okay, Mike from the Singapore
Yes,
Teachers
Mike, thank
Union.
you.
Okay, I shall start the ball rolling. Richen, thank you for your presentation. Insightful as ever. I plowed through the TALIS report as well. One of the things that concerns me, or that was highlighted in TALIS as well, salary matters, right? So let's not forget that bit. But more than that, working conditions matter even more. The workplace culture, the school culture, I think that's the most fundamental thing that we may have to look at, especially for Singapore novice teachers who said that, beginning teachers who said the administrative workload, committee work, and all that is more stressful than any other place in the world, right? It's quite the reverse for other countries where older, experienced teachers said they may be more stressed by committee work, administrative work. But in Singapore, it said that our beginning teachers are overwhelmed. Maybe it's a good job that NIE is doing in terms of pedagogical stuff, so they're quite competent in their teaching skills, but not in the organizational aspect of running a school. Your comments?
Right, thank you, Mike. That is an excellent question for us to segue into one of the questions that have come through online that is a very, very provocative question, and one that is totally relevant in today's teaching fraternity. Florencio asked, how can we respond to teacher shortages? I'm going to go turn to Rick because Rick had made allusion to the point that teaching requires a high level of skills. And the rest of the economy also are looking for talents. How can the teaching fraternity compete in this very competitive labor market? So Rick, your comments, please.
Well, I'll give you the standard economist answer, and that is, we don't understand shortages at all. And the reason for that answer is, if I looked in the IT industry and they couldn't hire the right number of people, what would they do? They would raise the salaries of the people that they want until they got the numbers that they needed in the profession. And so I've been studying education for quite a while now, and the discussion of teacher shortages, particularly the standard in every country of the world, since I first looked at schooling, is we have a shortage of math and science teachers. What's the answer there? Math and science teachers are in high demand elsewhere in the economy, and if you offer just a base salary to everybody that's the same and not aimed at what you want, you don't get enough math and science teachers and you have to substitute. So there are two issues that I would bring up. One is beginning salaries make a huge difference in terms of what people will choose to prepare and to go into the profession. And that's something that the TALIS report really can't look at because it's looking at people that are already in the profession. The second point that is brought up, and you saw in Rochin's presentation, is that whether you can retain the people that have chosen to come into the profession is important. But there, again, to the economist, it's not can you keep the right number of people, it's can you keep the right people. The most effective teachers, the math and science teachers that you need, the specialists that you need. So it's a matter of not only the level of salaries and other attributes, but it's also the pattern of salaries and how they go and whether they in fact support highly effective teachers, the ones that in the United States add each year $1 million to the future incomes of their students.
Right. Umi, what's the situation in Indonesia?
Yes. The situation in Indonesia now is it's extremely, there is a shortage of teachers after 10 years without any recruitment of teachers. And of course, I as a chairperson of the association of the teachers come to the government and make deal, and based on the data, then there is a recruitment about 1 million teachers under contract teachers, 5 years contract teachers. But the most important thing is because of a very low salary in a country and unclear position of the teachers itself. And also, Indonesia is very huge. We have 62 million of children should be taught. So, but now is government also trying to fulfill of the shortage of teachers, but it's not yet fulfill all the needs of the teachers across the country. So I think we have to increase the salary of teachers. Based on our research, only 11% of young generation who interested in teaching profession. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Of course, increasing salary is an antidote to the shortage, but again, if we reflect on a country like Indonesia with 3.3 million, increasing a salary at 3.3 million people is, again, a very, very important policy decision that has to be made. The Singapore example?
I would agree with, from time to time, reviewing teacher salaries too. But also, I think from what Mike said, is the working conditions. So I think one very important role playing out in the working conditions is also the school leaders. They play a part in how the school culture is, the deployment. All those decisions are not made at government levels, but are made at the school level. So I think training good school leaders, and that's where, again, it goes back to government. You have to train good school leaders and pick good school leaders so that you can have schools that provide that kind of nurturing environment, making wise decisions on novice teachers so that they can continue to stay. But I think another strategy that some of our countries are starting to use, and it's also reflected in Rochen's data, is trying to get teachers who have previously worked in other industries before. So they are mid-careers. For a couple of reasons. One is that they've been out there, done that, tried everything, and realized that, hey, maybe teaching is somewhere where I can really add to my soul. The mission, right, where I can actually do something meaningful for the rest of my life. And because they've tried everything else, they're not likely to want to leave so easily as well, because they are more settled. They're in a place where they're more settled. In fact, our National Institute of Education has done a research study that shows that teachers who are from mid-careers actually are more likely to stay. The attrition is lower from this group of teachers. So that could be another strategy that governments might want to try. And I suppose the last one is to provide the opportunity using technology in creating that space for teachers to do their work well, reducing their administrative work, but also because teachers are in classrooms all the time, how do they get mentored, how do they look at other teachers so that they can improve their craft? Technology allows you to record now other teachers, class management, other teachers teaching, and you can review that, and you can review the annotation of that. So that is another way in which we can also try to improve the way teachers feel more competent in their job. The more competent they are in their jobs, the more likely they want to stay. Thank you.
So on that note, we did talk a little bit about the novice teachers in particular, because if the novice teachers don't stay, then you would end up, of course, having a teaching population that will age much, much more quickly. So the injection of novice teachers, keeping the novice teachers in service and helping them grow to become the future teachers are very important moves as part of this answer to this shortage of teachers. Would any one of you like to comment on particularly the experience of novice teachers and the strategies that we could possibly talk about arising out of the TALIS data?
Well, the obvious one that I see all the time in the United States is the way we assign novice teachers to the most difficult situations in the most difficult schools. It's so obvious to everybody that this is a policy that, in fact, makes it challenging for the novice teacher and also undoubtedly increases the flow out of the profession. It's a very simple answer that, in fact, when we are concerned about our most disadvantaged schools, as every country in the world is concerned about both the level of performance and the distribution of that performance, whether we're taking care of the most disadvantaged students. We've had a few examples in the United States where you reward the best teachers to go to the most challenging schools. And what we find is a small reward relative to the salary induces the best teachers to, in fact, move to the most difficult schools, and the results are there. You can, in fact, close achievement gaps that have been the puzzle around the world by, in fact, getting the most effective teachers in front of the most needy students.
Umi, experience in Indonesia with respect to novice teachers?
Novice teachers in my country, we think that for the novice teachers cannot be give them the authority fully immediately after graduated from the school, from the teachers college. So government proposed like a mentorship, the mentorship with the senior teachers in the classroom, I think. But sometimes also because of many workload, administrative workload, so the senior teachers said that it is very difficult to us to give the time for the mentorship, but mentorship is very important for us. And also mentorship in our country is like a strategy to give the senior teachers position, in the rank of the status of the teachers and other things. So they have a time for the mentorship. So strategy of mentorship is still very serious thing that should be done in the country for novice teachers.
Right, I think those are quite important wise words from the chair of our Indonesian Teachers Association. Actually, as Mark has put it, other than salary is important. And I must say that I remember one conference I attended without naming the country, and when they asked me the question, I said salary. The whole crowd stood up and applauded my comments. That was one of the most powerful lessons for me. But other than salary, you all know that there are many other factors at work, of which, I think Mike alluded to the working conditions. We can talk a little bit about teaching afterwards. But in my own understanding, I'm well aware that a lot of teachers do care about what society thinks about teachers and whether society pays due respect to the role of teachers. Rochan, over to you in terms of TALIS data about it, because I believe we have got some questions related to teachers' perception about society respecting the profession and how that mattered or not.
So TALIS asks about the value or the perceived value of the profession on many levels. One is by the school community, so the parents and the students within the school. Do they feel valued by them? Do teachers feel valued by policymakers? And do teachers feel valued by society in general? As you can imagine, there is no universal finding. Different countries are going in different directions. But generally speaking, it is around, I think 25% of teachers around the world feel that they are valued by society. And that figure has not changed very much since 2018. In Asian countries, it tends to be higher. Singapore, Shanghai, Japan, Vietnam, we see that there is a greater perceived value from society given to teachers. And certainly that is a very important factor in so many things, job satisfaction, staying in the profession, for example.
And Rick, what do you think of this factor? Respect for teachers?
I think respect for the teachers is an extraordinarily important element. I think it's extraordinarily difficult to change that from a societal point of view. We don't know how to do that. When I think about working conditions and the other aspects, I come back to what Wei Li said, is that the management of the school, the principal, the leaders, the headmasters of the schools set the tone in many schools, and that is the most important element. It dwarfs the amount of time they have to do various things and the workload. It's the quality of the management, and that's something that you can change and can affect by policy very quickly.
Right. Actually, as a believer in behavioral economics, while salary is important economically, but the behavior of the fraternity, it does wonders in terms of what teachers can do when society believes in our work. We have done quite a bit of work in this area in Singapore. I just would like to invite Wei Li to share some of them.
There are various ways, I think, where we can recognize teachers and we can encourage society to recognize teachers. One of the ways is that we actually have a President's Award for teachers, where a couple of very, very good teachers are identified across the system and they're recognized at the national level, and the President himself gives the award. And we see these stories to not just the teachers but also society, so they realize the amount of work and the holistic work that they do in education. But it need not be just President's Award for teachers. We have also another award, which is the Outstanding Youth in Education Award, and then we have other awards given by other societies. Typically, it could be for subjects, PE teachers, PE and sports teachers. We have economics teachers. They all have their own awards, but we also have Caring Teachers Award. So many different ways in which teachers are recognized. And when you get society nominating them, parents nominating them across the system, that itself, I think, creates a kind of momentum that will actually continue to pervade society.
So what do the audience think, those online? But with respect to this particular question about how important is the respect of society for teachers in raising teachers' morale, attracting teachers to the profession, attracting people who want to become teachers to the profession. Audience, fiscally here, anybody would like to support or share some perspective about this particular factor? Yes, Professor Tan Mun Seng?
Yeah, I think the societal support for teachers is extremely important. Every human being at any time is a teacher. Right from the family, right? Everyone is a teacher. And I think the teacher symbolism is so important. I think in Asian culture, you can talk about the sensei in Japan, the guru, the lao shi. I think it is known that for the transmission of human flourishing and culture, the teacher plays such an important symbolic role. So I think it's a very important symbol, and the teacher identity in today's world, I think need to be really upheld, So it would be good if TALIS actually pay a little bit more attention to how the respective culture and society can strengthen this teacher identity and the importance of the teacher symbolism in flourishing the human culture, the human perspective. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for that support of a very important idea, because in my own mind, that support from society for teachers to do the best work is one of the most invaluable things that teachers appreciate. On that note, let's segue very, very neatly into what do actually teachers do that will make them happy. This is about the actual task and the actual activities and the actual set of roles and responsibilities they carry through on a day-to-day basis, the actual teaching that they do. Today, you hear from all our presenters as well as our minister in DSG about the impact of technology. So it is inevitable that for us as a panel to talk about the impact of technology on teaching and on teachers. I'm going to get the ball rolling by asking Umi to talk about the impact of EdTech on Indonesian teachers at large. EdTech at large. We're not just talking about AI, but EdTech in general, because EdTech has been around for almost now 20 over years with very simple computers in the past, but now, of course, made sophisticated by personal learning devices that are in our pockets, as well as, of course, the advent of artificial intelligence. So let's start the conversation rolling with Uni.
About the artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is sometimes make some teachers treated by the artificial intelligence, but we realize that artificial intelligence is very important. So in our country, there is a policy. The policy is for the artificial intelligence, we make two subject matters in our curricula, new, is about the coding and artificial intelligence, but it needs training for teachers, because a lack of teachers understand very well about, it's different with the Singapore. But also in our country now, for avoiding such the impact of artificial intelligence, we promote deep learning and joyful learning for because not all the teachers understand very well about the artificial intelligence, especially in the rural area. So there's such a infrastructure for connecting from cloud to the school. It should be there is a infrastructure, and not all the schools have facilitate about that. So artificial intelligence is very important, and then government now is facilitate about the two kind of the artificial intelligence and coding in the curricula, but it takes time and needs support from the teachers, and then should be training for the teachers. And the last but not least, the artificial intelligence also for some of us, how do we avoid the negative impact of artificial intelligence. So we need also deep learning, joyful learning. So because one thing that's very important for teachers is shaping the character of students. Thank you.
Right, Rochan, actually the interesting point about the AI bit was a little bit of the history of TALIS as well. How the 4 questions on AI was included in this cycle in 2024. You want to share the inside story?
It's a very boring story. So the story is that ChatGPT came out November 30th, 2022. And at that time, the TALIS survey was done. It was complete. It was ready to go. And very, very late, we looked at ChatGPT and we said, is this thing worth talking about in our survey? And it was in violation of all research principles. We had never asked this question. No one had ever seen it. It had never been tested. No teacher answered this question. We didn't know how it would, quote unquote, function in the field. But we had good leaders like Si Hung, who he at least faked expertise very well. And he said, we need to include this. We cannot wait until the next cycle to ask questions about artificial intelligence. It has to be now or we end up as dinosaurs. And we included it. And that was a really good decision, Si Hung. Thank you for doing that. I'm really glad that you made that decision.
Mayu, I didn't ask him the question so that he can compliment me. I wanted to really illustrate the point that technology is moving so quickly. So in a international survey like TALIS, the next one will be 2030. by then we'll be overtaken by many things. And therein lies one of the powerful lessons about technology for us in education. How fast-paced technological changes are happening in front of us and how we need to be agile and responsive to that. And that actually, again, leads us very nicely to some of the issues around our responses to AI and how quickly our teachers are able to be agile and nimble and respond to, perhaps not just AI, but the very, very quick evolution that's happening in the transformation of education around the world. Yes, Rick, you'd like to add on to that?
So I'd like to add on to that and reinforce the Indonesian story. One of the issues of education policy that exist in many countries of the world, I don't think Singapore is one of them, is rural education, because it is extraordinarily difficult to get teachers to move to isolated areas for rural education. And we generally sweep that under the carpet and at the same time point to technology is going to solve this problem. The first technological solution was televisions. We put a television camera in every classroom and that would do it. That didn't quite work. Then we moved to computers and that added something, but not a lot. I think with artificial intelligence and the emphasis on sort of adaptive technology that takes care of many of the problems that we've had in the past with technology, we're going to see finally that technology can help with this extraordinarily important area of rural education that exists in the United States in our rural areas, swept under the carpet, that we don't pay enough attention to it. But now we're starting to see schools that share instructors in advanced topics in their rural areas, that have the way to use technology to supplement and to fill in for real shortages in these rural areas. And so I think now we can finally, with some confidence, say that technology is actually going to have a very, very important impact on one of the big problem areas of education worldwide.
Yeah, Rick has actually answered from his perspective, one of the interesting comments that have come in through online. Kenya asked, how can AI tools help create more inclusive and equitable learning environments in increasingly diverse classrooms? Willie, you'd like to add to that as well?
Yeah, I think when we believe that this world that we are in is going to be AI-filled and probably AI-fueled. So education has to prepare our students for that kind of future workplace. And so the best way is to incorporate AI into our teaching so that they will be able, our students will be able to use AI appropriately and wisely and steer away from the abuses that are perhaps quite attractive for some. So one of the things that we might have to do is to introduce it in a way that is in line with our students' age, in the way that their brain develops. So when they are very young, we should stay clear of it to allow the students to actually develop some of their schemas, some of their ways in learning, which are more appropriate when they actually use concrete methods, when they see, smell, taste, hear. And those are more important for them at that point of time. But as the students are older, that's when we start introducing EdTech as well as AI. I'd like to see that EdTech is like the new red pens that we used to give teachers. It's very important that you give them the red pen so that they can do their work. Now we need to equip our teachers with laptops, with the software, with apps, so that they can do the teaching that is most appropriate for this generation of students, because they respond to learning in a different modality, and we have to be able to respond the same way. So AI will help us to make sure that there's inclusiveness, because we are increasingly working in diverse classrooms, and everyone is at a different entry point and different corpus of knowledge. How does one teacher deal with that variety? And AI can personalize learning to that individual student. But it still requires the skillful design of a teacher behind it. You can't just plop students in front of an adaptive learning system and expect the student to stay in that seat to do so. You still need a teacher to creatively design such that it is exciting, it is constructive, it is useful, it is relevant to the student at that point of time. So I think AI can do quite a lot, but of course the irony is to save time, we actually have to use time. So teachers have to actually spend time learning how to use this new technology to be able to do so. And that would mean quite a few hours and a bit of stress in order to alleviate the stress later.
Yeah, but as we wade into AI as well and into use of EdTech in general, there's always the question of the concerns and the risks. So one of our online commentators here asked, how can we consider the risk of teachers using technology without understanding fully how it works? I'm concerned about lack of knowledge when it comes to AI. Uni, any comments in response to Santoshi?
Yes, I think, yeah. Many teachers know is in the crossroad about the technology itself. But then government should take serious steps to cope this condition, like firm, like appropriate training for the artificial intelligence, share the equip of the technology to the schools, and also the training itself, and give them support that artificial intelligence should become also coming from the teacher itself, teacher themselves. Teachers feel that as to be a teacher for the lifelong learners. So they are not frightened with the new technology. They want to learn with the students and give the guidance. So government now is creating the guidance for using artificial technology, artificial intelligence.
Yes, in fact, that is one of the comments that have come out from Akinori online. It says that shouldn't AI or the platform that schools use provide guardrails and not leave it to teachers? Willie, your comment?
I think it's very important to provide guardrails, not just for teachers, but particularly for students. But to expect the developers to provide the guardrails might be a bit challenging because they may not understand education. They might not understand students and how they learn, where are the pitfalls. They may not have the incentives to do so either. So I think it is imperative that education agencies, teacher unions, and the teacher fraternity themselves to provide those guardrails. One thing that we might have to do, and which we will always be one step behind, but as fast as we can, provide the guidelines for teachers in the use, provide the workshops in which we teach them what exactly is AI, where the constraints, how it actually works for generative AI, so that they know how to skillfully and creatively use it in the different ways. And if there is an opportunity, if we have a system, and in Singapore we do have our own learning management system, where we actually incorporate the AI within some of the tools there. And that's a safe environment. And if we provide that, the teachers are more likely to use the AI tools within that safe environment because they know it's been tested, they know it's appropriate for education, it's designed specially to work in classrooms, to work with students. So you provide that opportunity for them to use an easy tool to do so. But at the same time, we know that commercial products is going to be there, and they're going to be very attractive for our teachers to use. And then we have to provide some guidelines for them to know how to select those commercial products so that they also use them wisely. Because teaching, as you well know, every teacher can decide how they want to teach in any class and how they decide what kind of tools and materials to use. So guidelines ought to be provided to them so that they can do their best job.
Yes, Rick?
So as we talk about AI, one of the aspects of AI is the speed with which it is being introduced throughout our society. And what that means for education and the guardrail problem and the minister's problem is that the policymakers have to be very nimble to keep up with this rapidly changing environment. And so the concern that the economist usually has is that we immediately think we're going to solve all the problems with a set of perfect regulations that are going to provide all the guidelines. Well, those regulations that are needed are going to change very rapidly with AI. And so this is a new challenge to leadership in education and the policymakers to be able to keep up with what is happening in the outside world. And so I just underscore that aspect of it.
I'm going to drag in another group of people. It's not just governments who need to respond faster, it's also education research. Because this is a very new field. We don't know how students are going to develop with the presence of AI if they're going to use it quite a bit. So we do need the education research to keep up, and the cycle for that research findings has to be spun much faster so that we get the information into the hands of teachers, in the hands of schools, how best to use it such that it's effective, and what pitfalls to avoid.
Researchers are thoughtful people. It takes time to do this.
Yeah, Groton.
Whenever there is something very, very new, very, very rapidly changing, and we don't know what to do with it, I think something that is useful is to look at the situation, not the thing, but the situation, and ask, what does this remind us of? Like, is there a basic principle that we can draw on to help guide us into understanding what to do? And in my opinion, there is a strong bedrock of trust that is required between teachers and systems, because this is faster than we are. It's just true. Governments are not fast-moving entities. So to expect a government to be able to outpace the development of artificial intelligence and from a very informed position give clear guidelines on what to do and what not to do, it's not realistic. And that shouldn't be the expectation. At the same time, teachers see this every single day. They see the developments, the tools are available to them. So it's a matter of the governments trusting the teachers that they're not trying to harm students. They want to do what's best for students. And the teachers trusting the government that they're not trying to intrude upon their autonomy or take away their agency, but they're trying to achieve a common goal, and they know that this technology is simply outpacing all of them. So at a certain point, I don't think we can say we need to draw a line here. It's about trusting each other to draw those lines for ourselves.
So we have heard quite a bit now how everything is moving so quickly that governments are not the most fast-moving entity. And I would like that to say that the teachers are by nature a very, very conservative fraternity. Teachers, I would say, being one of us, we love to teach the way we are taught. And we were taught 20, 30, 40 years ago. So how do we help teachers respond to this very, very fast-moving world? How do we help teachers to change? How do we help teachers to transform education in a way that would better deliver the education that our students deserve? The answer for me is professional development. The answer for me is about the fraternity coming together in collaboration to raise, upskill, and move everything forward. Would the panelists like to comment on PD, particular insights from TALIS that will help us move this piece forward to make the teaching fraternity all over the world to be more nimble, more agile, and more responsive? Any one of you?
I'll go ahead first. Well, professional development looks like from TALIS comes from a few different activities, and it cannot be delivered by just one platform because it depends on the situation the teachers are in, and whether you're novice teachers or whether you are experienced teachers, you might need a different type of professional development. But what is apparent in there is that teachers love to talk to other teachers, and they need to have that opportunity to implement what theories that they have learned from their pre-service training in the classroom and see other teachers do the same. That's why they need the mentoring. That's why they need to be able to observe other teachers in their classrooms. So I think space and somehow we must give that teachers the opportunity to peek into another classroom and to exchange ideas. When we are short of time, that's where technology, I guess, does the intermediation, where you can record it, you can provide a platform where teachers leave their questions and somebody can respond to those questions. And in Singapore, we have that kind of a Singapore Learners Design Circle where they post their questions, and for some reason, a lot of teachers will be there to pounce on and to give them some suggestions and some helpful ideas so that you don't feel alone. And to be able to network across other schools would be helpful too, because sometimes you're the only teacher teaching that subject in that school or that using that particular pedagogy, and it's helpful to know that you're not alone and to find somebody else who has been there, done that, tried out, made some mistakes, and this is a better way to do things.
Rick?
So on professional development, in the United States and I think in some other countries, professional development is legislated. There's a certain number of hours in each month and each year that goes to professional development. And the common story is that the professional development is not aimed at what's really needed by the classroom teachers, so that it's not very useful in the United States. When I think about AI, since we're always weaving that in, one of the big aspects of AI that I can see is that it will really make individualized instruction useful in the classroom. But if you think about turning that around, the possibility for AI to help guide what is the professional development needed by teachers seems to me to be a great possibility that isn't really developed yet, but in the future we might have professional development that's really geared to what the specific teachers need and the kinds of work that they need.
Thank you. And now I'm going to go from Rick, Umi, PD.
Professional development is the key for the quality of teachers. But professional development also coming from two sides, should be coming from two sides, from teacher itself and also for the government. Government provide some materials or some training for the professional developments, but also the needed for the professional coming from the teacher itself. So like what should I do? What should I improve the teachers' the teachers' content or other things? It should be coming from the two sides from us. It's even in Indonesian perspective. Now, if after decentralization era, so the teachers, the education itself responsible for the local government, for the for primary in the mayor, and then for the senior teachers in the provinces, and for the higher education in the central government. Then from our research, only 6% for the professional development itself. So that's why it's very challenges for us. Thank you.
One of the first comments that came in online from Akiro was that, and we all know this as one of the refrains from teachers, you know. As teachers, we're all very, very busy. We have little time for anything else. Where do we find time for the growth? Where do you find time to go for PD? Where do you find time to rejuvenate ourselves? Your response to Akiro? Technology?
Well, technology is what I mentioned before, but I think protecting time for teachers, and this is where governments, school leaders need to have that discipline to find a way to protect the teacher's time. So I've seen some very good examples, not just in schools in Singapore, but other places, where they actually timetable in each day teachers for them to plan, and not just to plan alone, but to plan with other teachers, to discuss their professional ideas, and this is a way for them to have that professional discussion. And I think being protective over that time is very critical, so that we don't leave professional development to the holidays or to when they can do it, but we actually support them. And I've seen schools who also just set aside rooms for teachers to be able to sit in comfortable surroundings with food, helpfully, yeah, to be able to discuss with all the equipment that they need. So I think protecting that time. And offering teachers a way to have a say too. So I think in Singapore we have a track where we have senior teachers, lead teachers, master teachers, principal master teachers who actually have a say in teaching, in policy making, but also for them to take the leadership in terms of teaching other teachers and showing the way. And I think recognition, that kind of recognition is also very helpful in making sure that we have the platforms in order for us to move fast, but yet have the teachers to say what is it that they need.
And just to add on to Wei, I'm sharing a state secret of some kind. We are involved in the policy of trying to create a time, the protected time for teachers. And our policy decision was to create 1 hour per teacher per week. And when we sat down and do the calculation, it amounted to a requirement of 1,600 teachers for a small system like us. Because if you take 34,000 teachers that we had then, and you give them 1 hour each, you will need 1,600 teachers to cover that 1 hour for each teacher. So that is the kind of investment that we are talking about. Just wanted to give us some figures that we are talking about policies that have real implication in terms of investment of resources, but without which, then the PD cannot happen at the kind of pace, at the kind of quality, and the kind of quantity that would be required to bring the fraternity forward. Rick, any comments about the cost of investment on PD?
I'd make a larger comment, not just PD. The future, the economic future of a country is entirely dependent upon the quality of its labor force. And so the future of development around the world is dependent upon the quality of its schools. And as we've talked about all day today, that comes down to the effectiveness of their teachers. And AI is not a substitute for effective teachers, so that future development of any country that wants to think about their economic future depends upon being able to have an effective teacher force that they can mobilize. So
my biased summary of what Rick is saying is the investment is worthwhile. Okay, with that, we had about 1 minute left. I'd like to invite each of the panelists to just give us some final thoughts in about 30 seconds arising from this very, very interesting and rich discussions that we've had so far. Let's start with Wei.
Just very quick remarks. It's a new context, new generations of students that we have, and new challenges. So what and how is being taught must change together with those new challenges. Because when the world changes and we have to prepare our students for that world, how and what we teach has to change, because students are just wired differently when they grow up in such a world. And so it behooves on us, educational systems, governments, as well as education research, also will have to be nimble to make those changes happen.
Umi?
Thank you. I just want to have one comment, the last final comment. That's the TALIS 2020 to 2024 has produced a number of highly relevant findings for enhancing the quality of teacher professional development, which serve a key reference point for education policy, I think, especially in my country. So in 2024, report highlights several important aspects that can form the basis of improving both the quality of teaching and teacher well-being. I think there are some, but there is no time more to say that final. I think it's enough. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Rick, your final comments?
It's embarrassing for somebody from the United States to come to Singapore and talk about improving its schools. Singapore, in fact, students do much better than US students. Our hope is that we can hire your students to come work in the United States. But I have to applaud what you've been able to accomplish in Singapore and your enthusiasm for improving what you've accomplished.
Thank you. Thank you for the compliments. And Rochan, your final words.
Because there is so much changing so fast, it's sometimes easy to lose sight of what hasn't changed. Teachers matter more than ever. To the extent that artificial intelligence can be dangerous, can be misused, can be harmful, who is going to teach the students what to do with it and what not to do with it? It's the teachers. And we saw in the data, and as Wei-Li pointed out, teachers are trying as much as they can, helping each other, talking to each other, formally and informally, if there's no formal opportunity. And I think it's everyone's responsibility, teachers, governments, to recognize that this is not a situation that we can control absolutely, that we have to rely on each other and understand that we're all trying to do our best. So if we can't understand artificial intelligence, then we have to trust the teachers to be able to navigate it successfully, facilitate that, recognize their efforts through their informal training, and to help their students out. And I think if we can do that, that is not something new. That is something we've always been trying to do. And we know that that can be effective.
Right, thank you. In fact, as a last comment, with the privilege of the mic in my hand, I just want to say that, yes, at the end of the day, it's always about the mission of teaching, about what the teacher must feel as the fact that they can make a big difference to the lives that they will touch in every interaction with each and every student. And when the teachers feel that, that conquers everything else in the world, including why we need to be nimble, to be agile, to be responsive. So thank you all for a most interactive and responsive session, both online as well as in the audience. And I hope that this panel session has been useful in provoking some thoughts as you look at the TALIS data in front of you, and to continue to mine that data and study and to see how we can help our teachers do even better work for the future of our students. Thank you very much once, everybody.
Go on, make that applause last a little bit longer for our panel as they return to their seats. Thank you so much to the panel. That was an absolutely fantastic discussion. I think you will all agree. But this is now the end of the TALIS launch, I am afraid. Please do go to the OECD website, oecd.org, if you want to see the TALIS report. Thank you for everyone who's been involved in making this report launch happen. Thank you to all the analysts back at the OECD who are part of this TALIS launch. Thank you for the technical team behind the scenes back up there who've made this all happen. Thank you for all of you being involved in the audience and also online for sending in all your questions. Apologies, we obviously didn't get through all of them, but it was really nice to see people so engaged in the topic. And thank you also to the Ministry of Education here in Singapore for putting us on and hosting this great event. If you are staying, sticky around, there are going to be some refreshments outside. To everyone online, thank you for joining. See you again next time. All the best.